You followed all the rules, no credit cards, no debt, no avocado toast, so where's your financial freedom? Or at least a working air conditioner? Welcome to the Dave Ramsey economy, where doing everything right still leaves you broke, burnt out, and Googling how to finance a dentist appointment without credit. For over 30 years, Ramsey's been preaching the same debt-free gospel.
And they asked them what the most important key to becoming wealthy was. 75% of them said getting out of debt and staying out of debt.
Cash only, cut up the plastic, budget like your life depends on it. And millions listened, millions are still struggling. Because here's the deal, what worked in 1995 doesn't work in 2025. You can't build credit without using credit. You can't buy a house without a credit score. And you can't gaslight inflation with a cash envelope labeled groceries. So let's talk about the total money mistake. What Dave Ramsey got right, what went totally wrong, and why Gen Z and millennials are quietly saying, "Thanks, Grandpa, but we're broke differently now." Before he was America's favorite budget preacher, Dave Ramsey was just another guy in debt. In the late 80s, he went bankrupt after dabbling in real estate and racking up $4 million in liabilities. Then he had a rebirth financially and philosophically. He started a local radio show in Nashville, preaching a debt-free lifestyle based on the lessons he learned the hard way.
MasterCard. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Money.
Pay cash, cut the credit cards, and never owe anyone anything. That little show turned into a financial media empire, Ramsey Solutions, with millions of listeners, best-selling books, sold-out events, and a daily podcast that your aunt shares on Facebook religiously. His brand? Moral clarity during financial chaos. No Wall Street jargon, no confusing spreadsheets, just simple, no-nonsense advice shouted in a Southern accent.
People change their lives when they finally say, "I've had it! Enough! I'm not doing this anymore." That's when you'll change your life, and not until.
And people eat it up. He's like your grandpa yelling about your spending habits, but with a podcast and a cult following. In a world full of gray areas and economic anxiety, Ramsey offers what people crave.
And when you give your income away, you have given up your economic future. All for crap.
Certainty, rules, and the belief that if you just work hard, say no to lattes, and follow the baby steps, you'll make it. But there's a catch, and we're about to talk about it. Okay, let's be fair. Dave Ramsey isn't totally off the rails. In fact, some of his advice is just plain common sense and surprisingly solid. His budgeting is quite good. He tells you to track every dollar you make and every dollar you spend without any excuses. And honestly, that's more financial clarity than most people have ever heard. If you've ever sat down with his famous zero-based budget, you know it slaps, financially speaking. And his idea of stashing away 3 to 6 months of expenses in case your car explodes or your boss explodes, metaphorically, we hope. That's brilliant. A savings cushion can be the difference between a bad week and a full-blown disaster. Ramsey advises to avoid dumb debt. He's actually right. You probably don't need to finance a $60,000 Tesla when you can't cover a $400 emergency. Buying stuff you can't afford just to impress people you don't even like? Yeah, that's textbook financial self-sabotage. So, budget like a grown-up, build that emergency fund, and stop treating credit cards like free money. This is the Dave Ramsey sweet spot. Simple, focused, and grounded advice for anyone who wants to get control of their money. But here's where things start to fall apart, because for all the solid advice about budgeting and building a cushion, Ramsey takes a hard turn into absolutism. No credit, no debt, no flexibility. His plan assumes you're living in 1993, where rent is $500, college is $4,000 a year, and your starter home comes with a mortgage under 5%. But this is where the nuance train derails fast. What starts as good advice becomes a one-size-fits-all boot camp for financial shame. And in today's economy, that boot doesn't fit, and it hurts. Let's talk about where Ramsey gets it completely wrong. Now let's talk about where Ramsey's playbook completely faceplants in 2025. And no, we're not just being dramatic. Real people followed his plan by the book, and still got burned. Meet Sarah Martinez Shaw, a woman who followed Ramsey's plan down to the envelope. No credit cards, no debt, ever. And then came reality. When it was time to apply for a mortgage, she couldn't get one. Not because she had bad credit, but because she had no credit. She told Business Insider, "We had no credit and couldn't get approved for a house." Later, she took out a secure credit card to build a credit score from scratch and was able to buy a home in 2021. Ramsey's zero credit approach sounds noble until you realize the entire financial system still speaks one language: credit history. Cash might feel responsible, but it's borderline useless in today's digital economy. Try booking a rental car, hotel, or even buying an airline ticket with a stack of crisp bills and see how far you get. Look, booking a car without a card in 2025 is like faxing your resume in 2024. Even debit cards are hit or miss for travel, and with the rise of digital-first banking, refusing credit entirely is less virtuous and more like financially ghosting yourself. Then there's Kathy, a caller to The Ramsey Show who opened up about her $250,000 after her divorce was finalized. She'd been using Ramsey's gazelle intensity approach, you know, the one where you cut out everything fun until the debt is gone. She said, "I'm on the hook for $250,000. This gazelle method burned me out." Debt snowballing might work on paper, but emotionally, it's a mental treadmill on fire. The problem? Ramsey's system leaves no room for life. It's all sacrifice, no sustainability. You can't budget away burnout, especially when your student loans outsize your annual income. Ramsey loves to say, personal finance is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. That's cute, until you consider what it's like being young and broke in today's economy. Let's be real. Housing. The median home price in the US is over $420,000. Rent? Easily $2,000 a month for a shoebox in most cities. Student loans? The average borrower graduates with over $37,000 in debt. And inflation? Yeah, that's not helping. Ramsey's response? You just need more discipline. Yeah, Dave, tell that to someone paying $2,000 a month for a studio apartment shaped like a cereal box. His refusal to acknowledge systemic financial barriers makes his advice sound less like empowerment and more like economic gaslighting. Let's be honest, some people aren't broke because they buy lattes. They're broke because the math isn't mathing, and just budget harder isn't a real solution. Dave Ramsey's debt-free gospel feels like advice from a simpler, long-gone era, like rotary phones or buying a house with your summer job savings. Millennials and Gen Z literally live paycheck to paycheck, trying to build lives in an economy where wages are stagnant, housing prices are unhinged, and student loan balances look more like small business loans. Take Sarah Martinez-Shaw. She followed Ramsey's playbook to the letter: no debt, no credit cards, and plenty of budgeting. The result? No credit score and no mortgage. Despite doing everything right, she couldn't get approved to buy a home. Eventually, she ignored Ramsey, built credit using a secured card, and finally purchased a house. Her story isn't the exception, it's the reality check. Meanwhile, the Housing Affordability Index dropped from 208.1 in 2012 to just 93.1 in 2024, meaning median-income Americans can't actually afford median-priced homes. But according to Dave, it's not the system, it's your lattes. This disconnect is exactly why so many younger Americans are side-eyeing his advice. When Ramsey says, save up and pay in full, it sounds less like wisdom and more like a guy who hasn't tried booking a flight without a credit card in 2025. Today's economy runs on credit history, flexible borrowing, and calculated financial risk. Pretending otherwise doesn't build discipline, it builds roadblocks. For a generation with no pensions, rising rents, and career instability, cash-only finance is like trying to run Windows 95 on a MacBook. Outdated, incompatible, and wildly frustrating. Ramsey's worldview may have worked in the 90s, but in 2025, it doesn't just ignore economic reality, it actively sets people back. And Gen Z and millennials aren't buying it anymore. So if Dave Ramsey's advice doesn't always work in today's world, why do so many people still follow it? One word: simplicity. In a world full of financial noise, crypto, side hustles, and credit hacks, Ramsey offers what feels like peace. His message is clean, moral, and easy to follow. Debt is bad, avoid it, pay full, pay cash, and save. That kind of clarity hits differently when you're overwhelmed by bills and bad financial decisions. He also taps into emotion. Ramsey doesn't just give financial tips, he preaches financial redemption. For people drowning in debt, he's not just a coach, he's a lifeline. He gives hope, structure, and a plan. That's powerful. And let's be real, some of his advice is genuinely helpful. Budgeting, saving for emergencies, and avoiding high-interest debt. Those are solid principles. The issue is when it's treated like a one-size-fits-all solution for every person in every economy. Even economists say his black and white views don't reflect how credit works today. We live in a system built on credit scores. Ramsey's cash-only mindset can leave people locked out of loans, housing, and opportunities, no matter how disciplined they are. But his brand is strong. Ramsey Solutions is worth hundreds of millions, and part of that is because people want rules, not gray areas. They want a guidebook, and Dave gives them one. Going debt-free sounds great, but living in extremes doesn't work for everyone. Especially in 2025, when rent, tuition, and basic groceries cost more than ever, we need a plan that actually works in today's economy. So here's a better approach: modern, balanced, and built for real life. First, use credit, but use it wisely. A secured credit card and small automatic payments can help you build a solid credit score over time. That's key for getting approved for housing, loans, and even jobs. Second, negotiate your salary. Most people don't. But according to a report, nearly 2 in 5 workers have never asked for a raise. Just asking can lead to thousands more a year, and over time, a raise pays off more than rushing to crush low-interest debt. Third, budgeting still matters, but automation is your best friend. Set up automatic transfers to a savings account and retirement fund. Even small amounts, like 5 to 10% of your income, can grow over time through compounding interest. Fourth, not all debt is bad. Use smart debt that helps you grow. Things like a mortgage, student loans with manageable interest, or a small business loan. Don't go into debt for flashy stuff, but don't fear all debt either. Finally, build flexibility. Have an emergency fund for surprises, but also build your credit history. You can do both. The goal isn't zero debt at all costs. It's financial stability that lets you breathe. Because in 2025, it's not about going full gazelle intensity. It's about being smart, steady, and setting yourself up for real, long-term success without burning out or falling behind. Dave Ramsey helped a generation survive, but his advice might be holding yours back. Today's economy is different. It runs on credit, flexibility, and smart strategy, not just fear of debt. If you've ever felt stuck trying to follow the no credit cards, no loans, no fun rulebook, you're not alone. We believe there's a better and modern way. One that still values discipline, but doesn't leave you stranded with no credit score and no options. So, if you've ever felt like you're playing financial Tetris with broken pieces, you're not crazy, you're just living in 2025. The goal isn't to follow outdated rules, it's to build a system that works for you. Thanks for watching Money Digest, where we make money matters easy to digest. Drop a comment on what you think about Dave Ramsey's method. Are you for or against credit cards and debt? Be sure to hit the like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Money Digest so you never miss out on your weekly dose of financial common sense mashed up with modern reality. See you in the next one.